first fully electronic city council teleconference. This is not our normal routine to date, but may be our regular method for holding city council meetings and other city meetings for the foreseeable future. I would like to review some best practices and set the stage for tonight's meeting. All council members and staff are in independent locations and using the latest technology to participate in tonight's meeting. We are using a Zoom platform, which is being broadcast to the AF City YouTube account. This meeting will be recorded and saved on this YouTube account, and transcripts of the meeting will be provided as well. We will begin with a public hearing. Item on this is to receive public comments on amendments to the fiscal year 2020 budget, July 1, 2019 to June 30th, 2020. Now, we have not received public comment to this point, but I would like to say that we will leave the public comment portion available for the next 10 minutes. And after which, before we get to that action item, I will check that and we will see if there's any public comment to be read at that time. I would direct anybody watching this to look at the agenda that is before us, or I will just say that it is Zoom public comment at afcity.net. And we'll revisit that later on in the meeting. So for the record, currently there has been no public comment. And so now I would like to welcome everybody to the American Fork City Council meeting. This is March 31st, 2020. As I stated earlier, I think this is a very historic occasion in the way that we're meeting and the circumstances that have brought us here. And the agenda for this meeting has been posted on our city website in various places throughout the city, and we will follow the agenda as outlined, and it's on the screen currently. We will begin by a pledge of allegiance, followed by an invocation by Councilmember Taylor, after which I will conduct the roll call. I might make a suggestion. I have this flag behind me. I'm going to just stand, and I'm going to, in my circumstances that I'm in, I'm going to just say it in my mind, and then we'll come back down, and then we'll move right on to the prayer. So if everybody please stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, Councilmember Taylor.
Take myself off mute. Our dear Heavenly Father, as we come before thee this evening as a city council and city staff and administration and citizens of American Fork, we are grateful for the blessing of technology that allows us to meet and conduct the business of the city. We are mindful, Heavenly Father, of thy hand in our lives, and we seek thy continued guidance for our national and local leaders, that they will have the guidance from on high to direct the affairs of our country, of our state, and of our city in a manner that would be pleasing unto thee, and that we as a people might be willing to follow and to do those things which would make our situation better. We ask for thy divine hand of providence, that it will watch over our public safety workers and those who are on the front lines of dealing with the public daily, that their lives and their families might be protected from this virus, that they will have strength, that their immune system or whatever it is that needs that help might be sustained, might be strengthened, that they will be well. We are grateful, Heavenly Father, for the circumstances in which we live. We are mindful of thy goodness. And we pray, Father, that will give us strength, that we might carry on, that we might be strong, and that we might come out on the other side of this pandemic and the subsequent crisis around that stronger and better, more committed to be able to do those things that would help one another, that would bring peace and strength to our community and to our country. We are mindful of thy very bounteous hand, and pray now that we will be mindful of our brothers and sisters around us, of the businesses and the citizens in our city, and that we can be better people. And that as we conduct the business of the city this night, we will be guided to do thy will and to do those things that are in the best interest of all involved. We close our prayer and express our great appreciation for all that we have and all that thou hast given us at this time, and pray for thy hand of providence upon us. And we do so in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you for that prayer, Councilmember Taylor. I will now conduct the roll call. Councilmember Christiansen,
Here.
Councilmember Shelton,
Here.
Councilmember Barnes,
Here.
Councilmember Carroll,
Here.
Councilmember Taylor.
Here.
Okay, we have all members of the city council accounted for, and we can conduct the business of the city. Moving on to the agenda, we have no public comments at this time, so I'll move on to the city administrator's report. Dave Bunker.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, it's only been a few weeks since our city council has met, but for some reason it feels like it's been a really long time. There's been a lot that has transpired in the last few weeks, and you know, every day it seems like there's some new thing that we have to deal with as a council, as a city, as residents in the community. So first, I would just like to say thank you to our public safety teams and our first responders. They are working extremely hard to keep our community safe and to provide a great service to our residents. And it's a little bit scary. There's some unknowns with how our first responders are reacting to reports of COVID-19. So I just want to tell our first responders and our public safety team how much confidence I have in them and how much support I know they receive from the mayor and council and from our community, and just to say thank you. Also, just want to thank the public for the donated masks that they are giving to our public safety departments. Supplies, across the country, they're running low. And, we're well stocked in American Fork. We have what we need right now, but the community is sending in donations of masks and supplies. And we just really want to thank the community for their willingness to give in a time like this. Our Public Works team, they are trying as hard as they can to cross-train and to make contingency plans on what would happen if a certain group of our Public Works team was not available. And so I just want to thank our Public Works director and our Public Works team for thinking ahead and trying to be prepared. We just don't know all of the things that will hit us during these kinds of events. And so thanks to them for thinking ahead and trying to be prepared for what comes our way. We are asking our residents to follow Governor Herbert's stay safe, stay home directive, which includes practicing social distancing and not gathering in groups and having limited travel, only going to those places that are absolutely necessary. Our playgrounds at the parks we've sent out a notice to the community that our playgrounds are closed. That is to keep people safe. It's not to stop people from enjoying the playgrounds. It is meant to keep them safe. There is no possible way that we can disinfect every playground every day in quick enough fashion to keep all of the residents safe and the children in our community safe. So we are taking some steps related to COVID-19. There may be more steps that come along, and we just appreciate our residents and their understanding as we take these steps. And we're more than happy to discuss those issues with residents if they would like to call into the city office. Our lobbies are closed at the City Hall and at Public Works Building. And at the police station and fire station, we are not giving public tours. The library is closed. We are starting up a mobile book service where people can call in and request a book. It will be provided to them at a certain location where they can pick it up. So there's a lot of change that's being implemented throughout the city. And so we just appreciate the public's patience with us and understanding as we make these changes. It's an unprecedented time. We've never dealt this way with the public, never dealt this way with each other, but there just has to be a lot of understanding. And so thank you to the public for that. We've had several updates. It seems like our days get filled with a lot of emails and meetings regarding updates on the status of COVID-19 in Utah. And just like to thank Governor Herbert for his leadership and Lieutenant Governor Spencer Cox. We have a weekly update from them. We are doing well. The Lieutenant Governor Cox reported today, Utah is faring a little bit better than some other states, even bucking some of the trends. But we cannot let our guard down. We cannot think that, hey, we're not going to experience what other states are experiencing. So the social distancing is really important. Abiding by the recommendations that we've received from the state and from the county are very important. We have to take this very serious. And again, thank you for our residents for taking it so serious. On another note, our burn permits are available now. If someone is doing a spring cleanup in their yard, they need to get a permit to do that. And you can log on to the state website, and that information is available on the city's website on how to acquire one of those burn permits. And so if our residents see smoke from a neighbor's yard, just know that that may not be their house on fire. That could just be a big pile of weeds or some leaves. We will be starting to energize the pressurized irrigation this week so that it would be ready for use on April 15th. So it's recommended that residents turn off their systems until the system is energized so that they don't receive any extra water that they were not aware that they were going to receive, but turn that off. And then on April 15th, the system will be ready for our residents to use the pressurized irrigation. And lastly, I just want to mention that times like these seems to spur some nefarious actions by people. There's a lot of scams, a lot of phishing emails that are going out right now. And we would encourage residents to be careful when they receive information from people they know or even people they don't know. Be very careful on the emails that you receive and opening up documents. The city has had a couple of recent attempts. One was impersonating Mayor Frost, and another was impersonating Councilmember Taylor. And we could tell that these were not legitimate emails, and so we just need to be on our guard. And I would suggest to the residents of our community, be careful out there. And that's all I have to report.
Thank you for that report. Lots going on. Thank you, David, very much. Now we'll move on to the city council reports. And I will start with Councilmember Christy Hansen.
Well, as far as official things, I don't have anything new to report. Lots of meetings have been canceled. At this point, though, I have to echo Administrator Bunker and talking about the quality of the people, how so many things could go bad but there are so many good examples of people helping people. That's what makes our community. Just really appreciate so many people who do that, and the city staff who work so hard selflessly to help others. Just appreciate all the work that's going on.
Thank you for that report, Councilmember. Now move on to Councilmember Barnes.
Sorry,
Oh, that's okay.
I was on a different page. I thought Rob was going to be up next, but that's fine. Just caught me off guard. I just would totally agree and echo David's comments about our public safety and our first responders and all of our other employees. I just got to think that mentally right now, this has got to be tough on all of them. Dealing with what's going on and the concerns that they have and the possibilities that are out there and everything else. I don't know that I could do it. I'd probably be even crazier than I am if I had that kind of stress. I think another group to mention is the group at the Senior Citizen Center. I'm guessing, Mayor, you were probably going to do that, but I'll do it first. What a joy, what a blessing, what a pleasure to have them in our city and to do the things that they're doing with the attitudes that they're doing. I've had just a little interaction with them, nothing special, just enough to know that they're doing what they need to be doing and they're blessing lives of people, and a lot of help is being given throughout the city. And also, I think the citizens of the community have rallied around it. And I think that's great. Obviously, some are more into it than others. I don't know if any of you've had a chance to go to the hardware stores, but I understand that they're staying pretty busy. Everybody's home with nothing to do. So the honeydews are getting done finally. So that may be a silver lining in this whole thing, and a good time to do it with spring coming and everything. So just glad to be here. I have nothing to report as far as any of my other assignments.
Thank you for that report. Sorry, Councilmember Shelton, I got kind of off on our normal routine, so.
You're totally fine.
Time over to Councilmember Shelton.
No worries. Thank you. Just to echo those same words as all the staff and particularly administration and what you guys have done and helping navigate these unprecedented times. Just want to share a quick story with you today. I took my car in to get an oil change at Point S, and there was one of our officers there getting his oil changed at the same time, and talked with him about 6 feet distance, of course, about things. And one of the guys there at the employees asked him and said, "Hey, how do you practice social distancing as a police officer? Do you just kind of toss them the cuffs and say, put these things on, or do you have to carry like special hand sanitizer?" And so they had some pretty good jokes going back and forth about that. But and no joke, knowing that is an essential element is our public safety. And I think the news broke tonight that there's 2 law enforcement officers in our county that have come down with the virus. So knowing that that's a real threat out there, and appreciate what they do on a day-to-day basis and the contingency plan that the city has in place to help those individuals quarantine if needed be. As far as council assignments go, we have Davis transfer station that has closed. We have the Transjordan. I always want to say TransUnion. It's Transjordan transfer station that has also closed to the public. The North Point still considers itself open and to the public with just not taking any cash payments. South Valley, which is just below us, is also still open. I have a meeting tomorrow morning with the supervisors there at North Point to talk about an online payment system where people would schedule a time to come, and we're only allowing so many people during that period, and they would pay online, and that would reduce any transaction or passing of things back and forth. So we're going to try to work out some kind of a game plan here in the short term to help protect those employees there as well. As far as dispatch goes, I think everything they've got is pretty well down. They've got a lot of protocols that are in place. I've just been really impressed with that. checked in with both of our chiefs, and they've been happy with the way that dispatch has been adapting to the new normal, I guess you can call it. So other than that, just think that this is a pretty crazy occasion that we have our first meeting online here, and really appreciate staff and their time and effort in making it happen. I'm sure it wasn't easy to get this all put together. So thank you. And that's all, Mayor.
Thank you for that report, Councilmember Shelton. Councilmember Carroll?
Thanks, Mayor. Of course, I'm really impressed with everything that's been happening. I know there's many people that have been working around the clock, but to save time, I'm going to report just on my assignments. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about what the chamber has been doing. I'm sure as many of you, they're worried about the businesses in the city, and they're worried about them surviving and them thriving even in such a hard time. So they've been doing everything they can to support the businesses in the city. A couple of things that they have done is try to put together, they've put together 2 Facebook pages, one for restaurants specifically, one for retail, to promote those. And they've been getting a lot of traction on those. They've also started an initiative of reiterating the governor's initiative of 3 times of takeout a week, trying to promote people getting takeout. And one of the biggest things they've really been doing, I'm sure you may have, the council may have seen these emails coming across their emails, but they've been doing almost daily conference calls with different speakers, and they have been excellent. They've given a lot of information. They had Val Hell on one from GoEd talking about the new thing, loans that the state is doing. They had somebody from Altabank talking about SBA loans. They had a human resource attorney on talking about different things with that. And these are just the things that are coming to mind. They're just really excellent, really quality topics that people could get on, and they can ask questions of these speakers. So I think the chamber is really showing their value right now when the businesses really need them most. So I hope that people can take advantage of that. Another resource that they are providing is on their website, the AF Chamber of Commerce website. They have links to many other resources that could be valuable for people. So I've been sending people there just straight to their website. And there's a lot of different things that they have just right on there. You can just go through the different things, and that's been helpful. And I think that's all I have to report today, Mayor.
Thank you for that report, Councilmember Carroll. Councilmember Taylor.
Yes, Mayor, I just wanted to report that the park committee, I left the park committee meeting to come to city council meeting. All right. I switched Zoom lines, and we had a number of people that were making their presentations there for the park funds, and the full park committee was there. And they're vetting all of those different things, and it made me appreciate technology. I've been using Zoom for years now, and this is the first time that it has been absolutely necessary, and I've taken it for granted all this time. And but I appreciate it being there, and it's wonderful to see the people adapting and working together, and everyone being so understanding. I just am so encouraged. I know it's a difficult time, and I worry about others' businesses just like I worry about my own. But to see the way people come together and the way they dig in and work for one another, and so much has been said about our public safety people and our city employees and crews, but it's true. They're on the front line, and they're out there going to work, and I am just overwhelmed, and I appreciate what's being done, and so many people trying to help other people. And it's unfortunate, but I think sometimes we need these little reminders that help us understand that we lock arms, we make a tough situation better, and we do the very best we can. And so I appreciate all that's doing that. So the park committee's meeting, going forward, making progress. My other committee, the golf course committee, Most of the golf courses in Utah County are still open. Our course has been vigilant for about the last 2 weeks. In fact, I believe we kind of charted the way in terms of cart usage, one person per cart, and then the 4 people in the clubhouse at a time. There's no hand-to-hand. The machine is set up so they can run their cards and do that. We have spaced out people on the driving range. So we have approximately 25 people we can have on the driving range at any time. And then our staff there polices that. There's a waiting list so that when someone gets done, someone can get their bucket and go out and hit, and making sure that we have the proper spacing. And Rick and his team up there have been absolutely fantastic and vigilant. Cleaning the carts every time, power washing the carts after every use, sanitizing the steering wheel, all of the handled parts. They have just been phenomenal, and I'm very proud of them. And what is amazing is the number of people that are at the golf course, and the number of people that will take a name and wait in line to be able to go out and to do that. And so our crew, you should all be very appreciative. Our crew has really been vigilant in making sure that things are clean, things that are taken care of, even at the expense of some people's tempers. One guy tried to get in a cart today that wasn't clean, and Rick actually had to ask him to leave the course because he said, "No, you're making a big deal out of this. This isn't that big a deal." And Rick says, "No, it is a big deal. I need you to get out of the cart. And if you don't like the situation, the way we're handling it, maybe you can come back another day when things are a little bit better." And so they've done a really good job of being vigilant, taking care of their responsibilities there. And so, again, just another opportunity for people to stand up and shine. So that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you for that report. For the mayor's report, I think it's okay to say that I echo everything that's been said about our staff. But I hope that in just hearing those trite words, I would just hope that our staff would really sincerely feel it, as I have from the council. First responders, police, they are the front lines. We know that. And, I get to rub shoulders a little more often right now with those good men, and especially their leaders, our chiefs. And it's reassuring to know that we have very capable people in those situations. But I would like to call attention to, as you have as well, to all of our staff, from public works to cemetery, and I'm sure that I would probably miss one, but our staff has had to adapt and think of redundancies and safety of employees, safety of the public. And some people have not received it well, but in large part, it's been well received. And we're there to serve them. And we've tried to make that known in everything that we do. We are there to serve this city, and our staff gets it. And I could say that our staff is very united, and that that through those redundancies, it's caused them to work together more often. And so I'm just really, really pleased with how our city staff has adapted to this COVID-19. And it really does start at the top with David Bunker. I really appreciate all that he does to just kind of lead and guide and direct that effort. Kevin knew I'd mentioned the senior center. I think the hardest thing that I have had to do, well, one of the hardest things in the last 10 days is that I went and met with the senior staff, with the senior center and the board. And that was very apparent to me that they could not participate in the way that they had. They were down there right in the middle of preparing food and handing out things. And I was just being concerned about all these touch points to what, is being said the most vulnerable. And so I met with them and I talked to them and I said, I need you to work, but I need you to work from home. And I was nervous about even asking of that of them, but to their good nature, I think they understood and they knew, and they trained some of our staff, and Derek has taken a point on that. And he has rallied another group of people and brought them around. I told the senior board, I said, you're the first string. And it's time that we let the bench come in and just spell you for a little bit, and then we'll give it back to you. And it's working well. So thanks for everybody for just adapting. And you know what, I think there's something to be said about thanks for just staying home for the people that need that. And for the vast majority, I feel like I've seen government work in different ways and a little deeper as the mayor and being at a point of contact to a city. And the governor, from him, Lieutenant Governor Cox, to our county and to local officials, there is definitely unification. And I support our governor and his initiative. And I would plead to the residents to understand it and to follow it and to put aside anything that you might think, and let's bunker down and let's follow this for the 10 to 12 days. Governor Herbert, as far as this mayor is concerned, is spot on. And I feel like he is a man that is very attuned to all the dynamics that are happening. Not only just the science, but the logic, the economy, and he's assembled a great team. And I've reviewed that, and he's very good at explaining it. So it would help, as we've made this a public meeting, for me that we would appeal on all residents to follow the outlines. And even at the peril of your business, as Councilman Taylor said, that there are some businesses that are having a hard time letting go because of the fear. But I think at this time, it's very important that we understand those guidelines and that we follow them and we help protect each other. I just want to leave this portion with one thing. It says, and I'll say this: remember, we're all in this together, and we will get it. We will get through it together, and I'm very convinced of that. I assure the city that they are led by capable individuals. Your elected officials, your city council, and your mayor. They care about you. They love you. Their heart is in this. Beyond the things that they have been elected to do, I know their good intent and their heart. And we are together in all this, along with their staff. And so we're going to ride this through. And American Fork will be better. We'll be stronger. We will have learned lessons. I'm certain there'll be some tears. And we'll cry together when that happens. And then there'll be times where we'll be able to feel like, okay, we did this. So I'm in for the long run, as I know everybody in this chat room right now, and this council meeting is in it. So that is the mayor's report. We will now move on to the common consent agenda, consisting of 6 items, is on the screen. I would make note, Terlyn, is item number 5. Has there been some edits to the minutes of March 3rd, 2020 work session?
Yes, there was just a minor spelling correction.
Okay. All right, with that in mind, do I have a motion to approve the common consent agenda as outlined?
So moved, Mayor.
I have a motion by Councilmember Taylor,
I'll second.
second by Councilmember Shelton. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for a roll call vote. Councilmember Christiansen,
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton,
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes,
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll,
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
All right, we'll now move on to the action items. Item number 1 is ratification of city payments from March 3rd, 2020 to March 24th of the year 2020, and approval of purchase requests over $25,000. Any questions from staff, Anna, specifically on the bills to be paid for the city? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve the city payments and the purchase request over 25,000.
I have a motion by Councilmember Carroll,
Second,
second by Councilmember Barnes. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for a roll call vote. Councilmember Christiansen,
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton,
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes,
aye.
Councilmember Carroll,
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
All right, item number 2 is a review and action on a resolution approving adjustments to the fiscal year 2020 budget. And I'm going to refer to Tara Lynn to see if anything has, we have had no public comment. So I will close the public comment period. We give that extra time. Is there any questions for staff regarding the budget adjustments before us?
I do have a couple of questions. I saw the budget amendment for the addition of the new baseball teams. I'm wondering if we could get a rundown of what is all involved with what we have to pay for, what we have to do in that regard, because it's new.
David,
Let me,
I'm guessing Derek is probably in the park tax meeting.
This was an addition for 3 divisions to the baseball program. It should be self-supporting. It was a private, as far as I can recall, Derek saying it was a private program that the city is now taking on. However, due to COVID-19, this may be canceled as far as programming for this current year. However, to put it in our budget, it would just help us in the next budgeting year for comparison.
Okay. Additional questions?
Yeah, I had one other question. It was, okay, I'd have to go see. It's on page 9 of the packet. I wrote down, it's under the fitness center area. Go down a little bit. Okay, so we're looking at the revenues and then under the expenses, the cinder block entry. So did we pay for that already, or I can't see what it says on there. Elimination of planned project to partially fund pool boiler. So my question was, are we not doing that anymore? I guess is what my question was.
We will not be doing that this year. The pool boiler was the priority to fund for this year. And so in order to fund that, we did not do the second part of the roof replacement or the cinder block entry. Those are the 2 projects that we are not going to do in this fiscal year.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't get in quick enough after Stacy had talked about the baseball. My only concern is that we don't take this on and that it costs the city, that it truly is self-sustaining. And we'll just have to trust that somebody's going to keep track of it and everything else. I just don't think we need to be spending a lot more money on some of the programs that are related to recreation and other things, because we're subsidizing that whole center and everything else quite a bit right now. And I'm not saying we shouldn't do it, but I just don't want to increase it. So that's my only comment on either of those.
Any other questions?
Just one other I had is just the impact fee used for art dye. Is there a way we could just get an accounting? I know we talked, I think that is about 5 million in that fund. Does that, was that already minus that afterwards?
This will be in addition to the 5 million. So it will come out of the park impact fee fund balance.
Okay, so that still leaves us with 5 million in that impact fee fund then?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. All right, council, any other questions?
Mayor, I'll make a motion.
Mayor,
The resolution adopting budget adjustments for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2020 budget.
I'll
Yeah.
second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Shelton and a second by Councilmember Taylor. Any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, I'll call for a roll call vote. Councilmember Christiansen,
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton,
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes,
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll,
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Okay, item number 3 is a review and action on a reimbursement agreement for Furry Tell's transformation. I don't know why I can't say that without just getting a little bit of a grin on my face. And so any questions for staff regarding this? I think maybe I failed to mention prior to this in the opening, and if we have a larger audience than expected, that the council receives a packet about on Thursday that they review and have be able to come prepared for this. And so sometimes we might move things fairly quickly, but know that the council has had 3 to 4 days, if not more, in discussion. And in many items, we would have work sessions leading up to this. And so anyway, any questions for staff on this action item?
Just a quick comment. I happened to be out doing some essential driving and I drove by there today and it looked like one heck of a project out there. There were a lot of stuff moving around and people there and everything else. So it looks like they're moving right ahead with it. So hopefully they'll be able to get that done now while it's kind of slow with some other things. Probably good for them.
There's no other questions. I'd entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'd move to approve the reimbursement agreement for Furry Tail transformation.
I have a motion by Councilmember Taylor,
Second.
second by
Wow.
Councilmember Christiansen. She beat you guys. I can really tell better from here who's first because you like.
Can you really? I didn't even hear her.
So
It
I have-
lights up their screen when they're first.
So I have a motion by Councilmember Taylor, second by Councilmember Christiansen. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for a roll call vote. Councilmember Christiansen,
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton,
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes,
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll,
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
All right, item number 4 is a review and action on an ordinance approving amendments to section 15.01.255 of the American Fork City Code relating to as-built plans. Scott, I'm going to have you just give us a quick summary on this, if you might.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. So this item is one that is fairly straightforward, we hope. Really, there's 2 things that we've got in there if you look at the red lines. And I'm sorry, I'll be looking over here and versus the camera. But one of them is in consulting with Rob, who handles all of our as-built drawings, is the US survey foot makes more sense than the international survey foot. He says that's the datum that really seems to make more sense. I'm probably not the best to explain further than that. Hopefully there's not too many more questions detailed on that. The other one gives a little more flexibility in the format in which we would receive these as-built drawings from developers or whomever who might be installing infrastructure that's turned over to the city. So we are including Esri shape files, and that really ties right into our GIS that we'd like to have the ability to say, look, if they can do these Esri files, that would really help us. It would save a lot of labor. And I also believe wouldn't cost the developer or their engineer any more time or money. A lot of them already have it. And this would help a lot with the city for them to be able to just share those, but it wasn't detailed in the code before. Got rid of the Mylar, really having them spend the money and required to print Mylars in this day and age doesn't make any more sense. So eliminating that and then allowing, or if there's an electronic PDF, that could be a method by which we got our as-built. So it's a little bit more updating to, I guess, current technology. I think the bottom line to remember is we don't believe that this can, will, or should cost a developer or their engineer any money. So I don't anticipate anyone really having a hard time with it. So that's the reason for bringing it forward.
Thank you, Scott. Any other questions? Okay, Benon?
I move
Mayor,
to-
I'd move to, no, go ahead, Barbara, sorry.
I move to adopt the ordinance approving amendments to section 15.01.255.
I have a motion by Councilmember Christiansen,
I'll second.
second by Councilmember Taylor. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. Councilmember Christiansen,
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton,
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes,
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll,
Aye. Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
All right,
I just wanted to see how that would look.
Item number 5 is review and action regarding an easement agreement with Rocky Mountain Power at Ardeye Ballpark. Any questions for staff on this? There's a lot moving up there.
Only question I have there real quick, Mayor, is does this give us the power we need up there? I know we've talked about before. I just want to make sure we've got power on each parcel that we're at. So if we need a trench, we're not trenching through any asphalt or concrete going forward. So as long as this gives us everything we need, I'm good with it.
Scott, are you the best one to talk about that?
I am, yeah, Mr. Mayor, Councilman Shelton, what this does, this is interesting, is this is actually an easement that we brought to you already. I forget, maybe a month ago. You approved it as a council. This does get the power to the building. It will feed everything that needs to be fed. So you approved it already, and the only reason we're bringing it back to you again is after you approved it as a body, Rocky Mountain Power had a couple of changes that they wanted to have made to it. I worked closely with Sherilyn. We looked at it, saw what changes they wanted to make. A couple of them we felt we didn't want to do, and a couple were actually reasonable and more in accordance with state law. So we said, well, this makes sense, but we've got to take it back to council. And so this is for your approval or your reapproval. Really, Sherilyn, you can weigh in if I misspeak, but the really change of, excuse me, the only change of substance was regarding if we, the city, tell Rocky Mountain Power, you need to move because we're going to do something else there, build some structure or whatever, where we've granted them this easement. The previous had said that they were responsible for all costs of relocation. This would change it to us. It's really, from what I understand, that kind of fits more with state law, and they really objected to it, again, after the fact, but we feel it's fair and reasonable that we do that. And that's, again, if we're the ones who initiate them moving something. And Sherilyn, please chime in if I misspoke at all.
No, that's exactly right. That was the primary change.
All right, any other questions?
Just on that, Scott, my biggest concern is just having the conduit there. So does it go to the old Good Cell property? So we've got power to the old Good Cell property. Does it have power going over to where we hold still days? I know it's going to the building, but I want to make sure we've got conduit going to each of those locations.
I believe we do. This is really an easement to feed from city right of way up to their meter. That's what this easement is about. And then from there on, it's all our property. And again, we've got conduit everywhere we need to have it or power, but that's really, it's not a separate issue from this easement. This easement gets right away to their meter.
Sure, I know it is, but I just brought up that question.
No problem. Good question.
So, thank you.
All right, council?
Mayor, I'm happy to make a motion. Do we already have one?
No.
I move to approve the right-of-way easement agreement with Rocky Mountain Power as presented and authorize the city to enter into the agreement.
I'll second.
Have a motion by Councilmember Carroll, a second by Councilmember Taylor. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. Councilmember Christiansen,
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton,
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes,
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll,
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Okay, item number 6 is a review and action on a construction contract for the 860 East Road Improvements Construction Contract. And Scott, you're, looks like you're on, so maybe just give us a brief overview.
So this is the Egg Farm EDA. So this is 860 East, down just north of 1500, I'm maybe off, 1500 south. And so it's along the east side of the Price property, if you will. So this is doing some improvements in the area that would not be something that we would normally assign to the Price development or any of the adjacent landowners. And so this is, it's getting down and basically doing some repaving. A lot of the east side of the road was done. Linden required a lot of those businesses that, well, all of them are in Linden. So that was done. A lot of the improvements, the widening, the curb gutter by them. This takes care of the middle road. When Price comes in, they'll be doing the west part of the road. So that's what this this project is about. Went through the normal bidding process, and Kilgore was the low bidder.
So when do we see that west property coming in and doing it?
You know, it's interesting in that over the past year, maybe 10 months to a year, I've had probably at least 3 or 4 interactions with them where they've come, they've met with me or my staff, or one time they met with David and me, and we're ready to go. We're going to happen any day. And then I haven't heard from them for a few months. And so and then they'll come in and they're getting ready to go again. And so we're ready when they are, but it's kind of in their time frame. And Billy, I probably haven't heard from them probably 4 or 5 months. So I don't have any more information than that. I know they are really planning on it, but I'm not sure. Again, it's been a couple months since I've last heard from them. So
my only worry on this is it will kind of have 3 different seams of asphalt that'll be on that road. And just as far as maintenance and things like that go, how that's going to work. Be nice if perfect world would be 1 layer over the top, right?
it would.
But the east side's been there for 3 years now, 2 years?
Not quite. That curb and gutter, most of that, it's been here since I was here.
Okay.
And I've been here about 2.5 years. It was soon, I'm gonna say probably about 2 years-ish, maybe.
Is there a way we could do a reverse agreement with the developer where we say, hey, we'll do the work, you come back and you reimburse us?
We, oh, you mean we widen it and do it? So do a reimbursement agreement before the fact, before they come in to develop? Is that just make sure?
Where we do the work, because we're already there, why not finish that road off? It saves everybody money for us to do it now. And then we turn around and say, hey, when you come in and you're going to do your project, you know, you got this bill that we could be able to take care of. I hate the idea that you're going to have, you had 1/3 of the road that's good. Now you're going to have 2/3 of the road that are going to be good. And then you got 1/3 that's just horrible. And this is going to be a pretty important road to our city down there as it connects into the Vineyard Connector when that comes through, and those businesses that are there. And they've already complained a lot about this road. We have the money in the RDA fund. It's just sitting in a cash account. I just feel like it'd be better use for our businesses and residents to be able to fix that down there.
You know, if it was as simple as just widening it and just doing the extra asphalt, I would agree. The issue is on the east side of the Price property. There's a major ditch line that goes through there. There's power poles that have to be moved. There's right of way that has to be acquired. So there's going to be a dedication of land. All of that requires the landowner to be involved. And as Scott mentioned, we have reached out to them many, many times. Scott's met with them multiple times. I've met with them multiple times, trying to get them to tell us what their schedule is. The road is in poor shape. And I honestly feel like it's appropriate for us to do the work now. I understand it will be another seam, but we just don't know when the Price property will ever get developed. We can't really force that. Sherilyn can chime in as far as doing this reverse agreement, if you will, to have them pay us back. I have never seen where a city has the right or the ability to force a landowner in the future to pay us back for improvements that we did.
Yeah.
And
I just want to be clear. I didn't use the word force. I want to negotiate with them. That's the key word there, negotiate versus force.
would love to negotiate with them. We've called and called and called, trying to negotiate, trying to get them to participate with us. They're just not returning our calls. They're just not interested right now.
Essentially, what you'd be looking at is kind of doing a connectors agreement and recording it against the property and having the city be the entity that's getting repaid. We'd have to look into that a little bit more. Scott and I have actually already kind of had that conversation, and we've thought about that idea, not necessarily on this project, but ultimately we'd be limited to 10 years anyway, if we did that connectors agreement. So then you would be kind of rolling the dice of whether or not that development would come in within that time, even if that was a possibility to do.
Yeah. I think I'd take a look at it, and I bet if you call the developer and say, hey, we're looking at doing this reverse agreement, chances are they probably give you a call back, because any developer that I know that says, hey, there's a low interest rate or an interest-free opportunity here to make an improvement on your property, and there's some cost savings there, I would love to at least, worst thing they can do is tell us no and where we're at now, but that's going to be a costly road to go back in and redo. I don't know. It's going to be problems down the road that we've had. Sorry, no pun intended. Problems later on that we're going to have as we're trying to keep the maintenance of that street. So just food for thought.
You know what? I've been in a meeting with that organization as well. And the main developer, Mr. Price, he left me his cell phone. I am happy to make that phone call and explain that to him and see where he wants to go with it. If I recall right, he has owned that property for a number of years, and I think their intent is, but we've seen this back and forth. So Councilman Shelton, I'll make that phone call to their development, to him himself, and I'll speak.
I appreciate that. I think that'd just be awesome. And it's been 2-3 years now that the businesses down there have been asking for this to be fixed. And I think it'd be a big win if we could make it happen. So thank you, Mayor. Joe.
All right, I would entertain a motion. If there's no other questions.
So is this motion going to be contingent upon the conversation that you have, Mayor? I mean, do we want to go forward to pave the middle of the road? What kind of impact does the discussion that we've just had have on this particular contract?
You know what? This developer is probably one of the more seasoned developers in this valley. He's had some big projects. So I would suggest that we not make it contingent on what's going to happen. I think that there's immediate needs. I'm sure we've talked about maybe leaving it at maybe even just a little bit low so that we can do a final overlay like we have in other subdivisions. But until we can really understand curb and gutter and grades and get the poles moved and the fence and the ditches cleared and piped and all that worked out, I would sooner just make it independent with the idea that the mayor will call. And if it moves the needle any, I will report back.
I only worry with that, it doesn't really resolve the concern then of when we do it. We still have the 3 seams, right? And getting all that work done at the same time. I hate to be one holding up work, but if there's an opportunity in the next 2 weeks to make that phone call and see where things are at, I don't know if this puts us behind a whole lot schedule wise, that direction. But I know it's 2 weeks to have a phone call and discussion, not to do the engineering and everything of that nature. But I don't know, I think it'd be great to get this all done. And that kind of goes back to the discussion we've had for quite a while. If we've ever got the capital improvements plan done for the RDAs, we've talked about that for a few years now. I think this coincides right along with that. We've got money in the bank. We need to know how to be able to be spending it in these areas for the best use for these businesses and for the ROI for us as a city as well.
Scott, can you speak to the urgency of this? And even if it's since to come back.
Mr. Mayor, we'd sure like to move forward, of course. We have done the engineering for this part and bid it and so forth. Obviously, it'd be a little while before, even if, by the time they mobilize, there's a time delay anyways, before they'd be paving and we'd have this extra seam. I think my biggest concern would be if we were to do this all as one project, if you will, and do all that work on the west side, that's not something that the engineering can be done very quickly. As David said, there's power lines, there's a ditch, there's right-of-way issues, there's quite a bit. So if it would set back any improvements by probably quite some time. And so I think I'd like to go forward and see if we can do it. And, this project as is, and, maybe some change orders could be done or whatever. And just speaking frankly, seams aren't great. I absolutely agree, but they're also not the end of the world. With done right, we can do a seam that can really work well and not cause the city or the taxpayer to have an inferior product. It's not perfect, no question about it. I would love to do it all at once if we could, but I'm concerned about just letting it sit while other things get going.
All right,
I understand. This is one of those things, though, that I have forever had an issue with. We can do it right once, or we can do it multiple times. And I mean, I know the seams aren't the end of the world, but we have the money in the RDA. If we can just find out, and maybe they are hands up. No, we're not going to do anything right now. And we can go back and then jump in. This is one of those rare moments when I have had people reach out to me on this area. I've got a couple of clients down there, and the moment they found out that I was on the city council, it was, whose road is that runs north and south leading in here? And I said, well, the part that's done is Linden, and the other part is ours, but it's waiting for the developer on that area. We've got a ditch. We have several things that we need to do, but those improvements will be made when that's coming in. That's a piece, but I do appreciate everything that's being said. I'm not discounting a single part of that, but who here wouldn't do it right one time as opposed to doing it 3 times? That's my only thing. And if we, Brad, if you reach out and they say, no, we're not really interested at this time, then boom, I say we go ahead with this. But if there is a chance that we can do all of that, think of the economies of scale. Think of the dollars that will be saved if we can do it once versus, twice. So I don't know. That's just my thought on it. I would prefer waiting. I don't think there's a majority that can stop this. I just, for the sake of efficiency, we're going to be 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
And I agree. I would just say this, maybe Scott can just speak to the time frame to resolve all those issues and bring this forward as a developer, as opposed to having what we call 3 section. I'm not advocating, I'm just trying to bring out facts. I'm thinking that for that developer to come in and go through this process and then do the improvements. Scott, how long would that take in your mind to do that?
I'd kind of like to probably have a discussion with Horrocks Engineering, who designed this for us, the current project that's before you to approve the contract, to see. I can give you some very rough, just kind of hunch feels, but I hope you'll hear the disclaimer lingo in my voice that it may be very different than what I'm thinking. But if everybody, all the parties, let's say Price and the city and Horrocks, all decided within the next 2 weeks that hey, we can do this. Let's make this happen. I would estimate the engineering to take care of some of those issues to be at least 2 months, maybe longer, but probably at least that, simply because of the complexity of the power lines and the ditch filling in and some of those things. That would obviously cost some more design money to do that, but probably at least 2 months worth to do that engineering from the time that we said go. That would give them the plan sets. Maybe the contractor could mobilize a month after that, three months-ish, and again, this is kind of a hunch feel. That would probably be the short end. It might be a little bit longer. The contract before you right now, we typically require, and David and Sherilyn, tell me if I'm wrong, but contractors generally, it's in our procurement, I believe, that they typically hold their prices for 30 days at least. And so we would have, it would be also a substantial enough of a difference that we might need to look at rebidding it, or at least negotiating with this contractor to see if they would be willing to either hold their prices longer or kind of look at that. And I haven't really thought through that, because it would be a substantial increase in the scope of work for the contract beyond what's before you today. But if you delayed this 2 weeks from today, they would still, I'm sure, be either required or at least willing to hold their prices until the next city council meeting. If that's the kind of the will of the council tonight.
To me, it's worth the wait, but that's one person's opinion.
So I just have a clarification from everything that we've talked about over the last year or so. The timeline on this road, it sounds like the reason we're doing it now is just because the road needs improvements, not because certain things are going in that are waiting for it. Is that correct?
It's in really bad shape. It's terrible out there right now. There's nothing pending on that whole west side of this road. I mean, the traffic has substantially increased in the area, though, and it just continues to increase as people are driving through it, which is why, hey, let's get this done so that at least from the east side of the road to roughly the current west side of the road will be good, smooth, good shape pavement, with then later being widened further west with curb, gutter, and sidewalk over there, and the ditch being filled in, et cetera, for on the west side. But yeah, no, it's really just because of the shape of the road right now. It's in pretty bad shape.
And this road is completely in American Fork. None of it is in Linden.
That's correct.
Okay. Because what I'm kind of thinking is there is a potential that if the developer doesn't develop in the next 10 years, Sherilyn was saying, then if we do improve it, then we would be essentially paying for all the improvements on the road out of the city budget. But it maybe would be worth
Out of
it
the RDA.
out of the RDA, right? But it maybe would be worth it because we have the road finished.
Keep in mind, we can't do that without their participation. Unless we're going to condemn property, we don't have the right-of-way width we need to do the full road.
So
They own the property. So without their participation, unless we're going to condemn their property, which I think that would take us down a whole other level.
yeah.
You know, my one recommendation may be to approve the contract contingent upon the mayor talking with the developer. And if they are going to develop or at least participate with us in the next 3 to 4 months, which would, you know, give us time to go and redesign the rest of the road, work with them to get property, then we would hold off if they're going to participate with us. If they're not, then we would move forward to at least get the road in its current width to a condition that the people who are working down there can traverse the road without, you know, the dangers they have now, hitting all the potholes, having such a bad road down there.
Part of the concerns I've heard from those businesses as I've met with them is the issue of that ditch being right next to the road. And there are a lot of semi trucks doing deliveries down that road, be it to the car dealership, to Cornerstone that does a huge technologies, that does a lot of work doing, what do you call those events there, Clark, that you do all the time?
Yeah, Cornerstone is closed for now, though.
Well, for now.
Cornerstone is, yeah. So, I mean, they're just bringing in their equipment in semis. Yeah.
Right. I'm talking long term, right? I'm not talking the next 2 months, but
Right.
as you look at that, that was the concern they had, is the traffic on that road and the width of it right now needs to be able to go over that ditch. There's nothing that stops you from just going onto that ditch. It's just asphalt, and then you're going into a deep ditch.
There's a shoulder there. It's several feet.
Yeah, it's not right on the edge of pavement right now. I mean, you could drive into it, no question, but you gotta be trying to.
And is that ditch in private property?
Yes,
Okay, yeah, I just knew it's real close. It's right on there, but I think it is.
right on the line.
So anyway, I just think it's worth taking a look at. You know, I brought this up when we were looking at teaming up with Linden to get this all done when Linden had it. I think this is our other opportunity to do it now. But the RDA is also going to be expiring here when? When does the egg farm go up?
We have several years still.
Do we have 10 or more years left on the egg farm?
I don't know if it's 10 or more.
Right. So my issue being is those funds in the RDA are going to be spent out anyway in 10 years. So we might as well do it to get a good improvement down there versus.
I agree completely. I think it would make a much better road if we had a property owner that would participate with us. It would be much better. I guess I just want to emphasize how much Scott has tried to work with them, how much I have. Mayor's met with them. We've been really, really trying. Multiple times I've said, Scott, please call again and again and again. So, you know, the effort has been there, but I think if the mayor calls, it's kind of like the daddy duck quack, and I think he can get their attention.
Sure. And I think we hit this on 980 North when we did this, right? Brad, we had to go and get all that right away, and we had to call in the daddy duck, if you want to say that, for the last little piece that we had to have that we were even thinking about condemning because of the issues that were there. But when they see the financial benefit, most of them are like, well, yeah, why wouldn't I jump on board? So I'd love to at least exhaust that option first.
Yeah, I think if Brad will do that, I think if the mayor will do that, that'll be fine. The attempt has been made. You can't push a rope. We don't want to condemn property. And so at this point, you know, I will make the motion. Mayor, I move that we accept the bid submitted by Kilgore Contracting for construction of the 860 East Road Improvements Project in the amount of $267,476 and approve the construction contract as presented, contingent upon your conversation with the landowner to the west regarding the improvement of the entire road and being able to do it all at once. Is that feasible?
Yeah, I like that. I don't want to wait so long, especially because of the property issue. I don't feel like we were ever planning on condemning. So to me, that works. I can second that motion.
So I have a motion by Councilmember Taylor, second by Councilmember Carroll. Any discussion on the motion?
A quick clarification. So if they come back and say, yes, they want to participate, are we still moving forward with this while we're re-engineering it? Or are they re-engineering everything and rebidding it back out? With the
I think we would need to rebid it.
Yeah, I think it would be the whole redo.
Okay, so just want to make sure we got that clarification then.
I think so too.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'll call for a roll call vote. Councilmember Chris Jansen,
Barbara.
On mute.
Okay. Aye.
Councilmember Shelton,
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes,
I hate that mute button. Aye.
Councilmember Carroll,
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor. Councilmember Taylor?
Aye.
Okay, just didn't want to hear.
Must not have picked it up the first time. Sorry.
All right, item number 7. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Hey, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I can't help myself, but if Daddy Duck accidentally gets sick, did you say he has a Mallardy?
Oh, nice one. That'll be on public record. Good one, Scott. We knew you'd get in there somewhere.
Good job, Scotty.
On
All
that
right.
note,
Mayor, I'd move we adjourn.
All right, please adjourn before Scott comes up with one more. All right, motion by Councilmember Taylor,
Second.
second by Councilmember Shelton. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, I saw them all. Any opposed? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thanks to Vendlin
Thanks, everyone.
and for George. They have done a lot of work behind the scenes to make this pull off. And they are not only doing it for this meeting, but for planning commission, for park tax. These guys have been running all over the city. So thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Take care.